In this video, we're going to have a look at Maura Dooley's Letters from Yorkshire. So to start off with, this poem is probably written from the poet's perspective, and supposedly it's about her communicating with a university friend, but this is unsubstantiated, so we don't know definitely who on earth she is writing to in this poem. It is about how nature is often missing from modern life, and that's what we might see in their relationship when exploring this poem. So oftentimes, people don't work in nature like the person she is writing to, and the poet thinks that this is a mistake or something that is missing from modern life. So let's start off with, in February, digging his garden, planting potatoes, he saw the first lapwings return. And so you've got this pronoun he over here, which says he saw, as in the poet herself did not see it. And she's almost maybe jealous of the fact that he gets to work in nature and he sees these birds return, the first ones of the season return. And he comes indoor to write her. His knuckles singing as they reddened in the warmth, okay? So you've got the personification of the knuckles singing here, and it conveys probably how bitterly cold it was outside, because it's February, and it's freezing cold outside, and therefore his knuckles are painful because of the cold that he's experienced whilst he's been working manually outside. However, the verb singing is inherently positive, suggesting that the poet has probably some kind of admiration for him being able to work in nature in February, and she's maybe a little bit jealous of the fact that he gets to work in nature while she doesn't do that in her own profession. Moving on then, we've got, as they redden in the warmth, you've got this enjambment across the two stanzas, and obviously he's working outside and she works inside, and obviously he comes inside there. It maybe is to demonstrate the fact that there's such a gap, there's such a divide. And so the enjambment bridges these two stanzas, just like the letters bridge Maura Dooley and the person that she is writing to. And so perhaps like they're so different, but there is still a continuation, there is still a connection represented by the enjambment here. Moving on then, she says, it's not romance, simply how things are. You out there in the cold seeing the seasons. So he gets to see the seasons, she certainly doesn't. She says it's not romance, so maybe we can rule out the fact that this is not this is a romantic relationship, and it does lend a little bit more credence to the idea that it's a university friend. Okay. So he sees the seasons turning, and then she has her heart full of headlines, feeding words onto a blank screen. And it's interesting the fact that she uses the words blank screen here. And perhaps the screen is empty, because maybe she doesn't find it a fulfilling profession what she actually does, typing into a computer screen. So maybe she struggles to find a meaning in her work, and she sees a lot more meaning in his work, which is a little bit more physical, but it is in nature. I mean, basically he's working with his hands and he's working outdoors and experiencing nature where she doesn't. She then maybe gives away her insecurity here when she says, is your life more real because you dig and sow? So this interrogative, it suggests that she's not really sure about her life and the direction it's heading in, and maybe she thinks that his is a better life because he works outside and because he does physical activities, but in nature where she is inside, presumably looking at a screen and typing headlines or typing words into a screen all day. Moving on then, it goes, you wouldn't say so, breaking ice on a water butt. It's not a glamorous picture, and obviously the person she's writing to doesn't seem to think that his job is more glamorous, but she still thinks that maybe it is. You can see a little bit of disagreement maybe. You wouldn't say so, but obviously the poet probably would say so, is what we can infer there. Clearing a path through stone. Still, it's you who sends me word of that other world. And it's interesting, the wording here, other world. It's another world, completely different. He's working with nature, and she's working with an absence of nature, and she's maybe jealous of that. She says later on, pouring air and light into an envelope. So it's a really interesting phrase here. Air and light are things that we need to survive, and the metaphor here suggests she needs this other world, or she needs the word of that other world that she gets from him to breathe, basically, or provide light for her. And maybe her reality, if we're going to go a little bit deeper, isn't providing her, and it's actually suffocating and dark in comparison to what he can provide for her or what he gets from nature. It continues, so that at night, watching the same news in different houses, our souls tap out messages across the icy miles. So, I think the ending is rather ambiguous. The message is really ambiguous, and there are a few different ways that you might interpret it. So my suggestions, maybe their souls are connected because they inhabit different worlds, but together they make a whole. So he works outside, she works inside, and together they make a whole, and that's why they are so close in terms of their correspondence, in terms of their writing to one another. Or maybe, perhaps, the soul's tapping out messages as a reflection of how much she admires his lifestyle, and how much she feels a connection with what he is doing because he's working with nature or in nature. Or maybe, finally, the icy miles represent the fundamental difference that separate them. So obviously he works in nature and she works inside, and those icy miles that divide them are symbolic of the divide in terms of their lifestyles.